if you're a fan of the Panasonic HVX200, let me introduce you to the HVX200. This camera can shoot not only 720p HD, it can film 1080. And we're gonna get into the specs of this thing. Look, it's even got Leica optics, built-in ND filters. Yes, they're built right in. You can control exposure with ND filters right there. This even has internal optical image stabilization. When I've got the stabilization off, it's pretty shaky. But that stabilization, you turn it on, it works really well. Stabilization off, stabilization on. Oh, that's like a gimbal. Look at this screen. Look, a flip out screen. This is incredible. You can flip this all the way around. You can even film yourself and do selfie style videos. It's DVC Pro HD. The Pro means it's professional. Now, it is a little bit squeezed. It doesn't have square pixels, but it's all totally fine because this is an HD camera filming DVC Pro. But don't worry, you're not limited to just DVC Pro HD. You can still film with mini DV tapes. So if you've got a lot of DV tapes still that you need to film with or whatever, you can record with the DV tapes at the same time that you use Panasonic's P2 memory cards. Guys, these things are crazy. Look at this. This is a P2 card, 4 gigabytes. How do they get 4 gigabytes in such a small space? So if you're recording HD on this camera, 4 gigabytes will give you about 4 minutes. So every 4 minutes, you're gonna have to swap the card, but really it's basically like filmmaking. If you've got a film reel, you're gonna switch that every 4 or 8 minutes or something like that. So 4 gigabytes, great. There are more bigger cards, like 16 gigabyte, 8 gigabyte, but the 4 gigabytes are pretty affordable at like $800. I think this card was $800, $700, something like that. So if you're looking to save a little bit of money, you can get a few of them and just trade them out like you would with a film reel, but you're doing HD video. So this pops right in here, you record, you even have your write protect slot so you can protect it and make sure it doesn't get overwritten. If you need to eject the card, you just push this button here, really satisfying click, pops right out, and you can run 2 slots. But the unfortunate thing is you can't use the SD to record, you have to have P2. Now on mine, the EVF did kind of crack a little bit, but no big deal, just fix that with a little bit of gaff tape. That'll clean that right up, no problem. The viewfinder screen's actually not bad. It's tiny, but it looks a lot better in the EVF than it does on the LCD. And let me show you, this is a global shutter camera. A lot of people have issues with jello and rolling shutter, but this is actually a 3 CCD chip sensor. So red, green, blue, global shutter, you're gonna have no skew, no jello, no rolling shutter. Those CMOS sensors, I know they're popular and they're in a lot of cameras, but global shutter is the way to go. You've even got built-in XLR right here, left and right. You can even switch from mic to line on the XLR inputs. They really thought of everything. And look at this side grip. Oh, you just feel that? Look at that. One hand, so comfortable. You got your EVF and the flip out LCD like I showed you before, pops right out. You can shoot true 24p on this. So a lot of people are running 30 frames a second, 24 frames a second. That's the key to cinema. If you want your content to look like a movie, 24 frames a second, it's gonna look just like Hollywood. Look at all the buttons. You have so much control. You have zebras. Those zebras are so helpful because I can see what's overexposed. You've got phantom power for those microphones. That XLR, power those mics. You've got shutter control and you can run shutter angle. Shutter speed, guys, that's a no-go. That's for photography. You want shutter angle and this guy can do it. If you need to switch between DV tapes and P2 cards, the little switch right on the back makes it real easy to toggle back and forth if you're doing P2 or tape. Of course, you can set your white balance. You've got gain. So a lot of you will know ISO. This is gain, low, medium, and high. So if you're filming in low light, you can bump that gain up, get a little bit better exposure. And like I said, don't forget those ND filters. It's not an exposure triangle of aperture, ISO, and shutter. It's an exposure diamond. Diamond is the key with the ND filter. We got 4 ways to control exposure. Make sure you're doing it. Now, I know some people will say that the sensor is a little bit smaller in here compared to some other cameras. Sometimes it's nice to have a smaller chip sensor because you can really zoom in super tight. But don't worry, you guys, you can actually run one of these front Red Rock Micro. This is a Super 35 adapter, so you can use old vintage Nikon or Canon glass. And if you power this up, there's glass inside here that'll capture that Super 35 frame. All you need to do is pop this lens hood off here. So the Leica branding, you'll have to lose that, but it's okay. The glass is still Leica, everyone knows. I've got a UV protector on there. I'm gonna take that off as well because I don't really need it if I'm running the Red Rock Micro adapter. Look at that, you thread it right on. Look how compact this is. Compare this to a film camera. If you're shooting film for Hollywood, those cameras are massive, super heavy. Look, I can hold this right like this. Super lightweight, super compact, HD, Super 35. We're gonna use some great Nikon glass on this guy. Because of the way lenses work, this is gonna actually flip the image upside down. So when you're filming with the camera, you're gonna have to film upside down. You would think that there could be a way in the menu in the monitor to flip the image, but there's not. So if you have some other like television or something you can plug it into, there are outputs on the side here, so you can run S-video. You could put it into a TV and flip the TV upside down. But there's an even cooler trick on here. You can record 720p 60 frames a second, and by getting those extra frames, you can actually slow that down for a really cool slow motion effect. It's 720, so the resolution does take a little bit of a hit, but honestly, no one can tell. The streaming compression, like all the quality these days is not that great anyway, so even 720p is enough. A lot of people wear glasses, they can't even see resolution. 720p, totally fine if you want that really smooth, creamy, slow motion B-roll. It looks so good, guys. I'm gonna put this back together the way it was and show you something really cool. So if you're using photography lenses, a lot of them, you've got to zoom, manual with the lens. This camera has a servo mode. You can run zoom with just the buttons. So you can do some of the smoothest, creamiest, most buttery zooms you've ever seen because the camera is gonna do it for you. It's like automatic almost. Everyone's talking about autofocus. I love this auto zoom because it's so smooth. You don't have to do it yourself. Sometimes, when people are doing it, but you can if you want. You can do the focus ring, zoom ring kind of thing and dial it in. But oh man, this look right here where you can just zoom just with the servo, you can get some really dynamic B-roll that way. And this zoom range is really impressive. You can go from 4 millimeters on the wide end all the way to 55 on the long end. So that's a huge zoom range. And on the wide end at 4 millimeters, you're actually filming at an f1.7. So shallow for that depth of field. Adjust my aperture down. Oh yeah. It's got a really easy to navigate menu. So I'm in video cam mode right now, but I can switch to film cam and get that shutter angle. And you can even set your synchro scan if you've got flickering light bulbs or anything like that. But I'm gonna leave it at 180 degree shutter angle because that is cinematic. I did switch to the P2 mode so I could show you some of that. And you do have to turn the camera off and then turn it back on to get it into P2 mode from DV tape, but that's totally fine. If I go into the menu here, I can show you. So we're filming standard def 480, but like I said, 720p 24, 30 frames, 720p 60 frames, all the way up to 1080 24. And sometimes when you're doing manual focus, it is hard to see if it's in focus. There's even this focus assist button on the side here that when the screen's open, you can punch in using that button to really ensure that what you want in focus is in focus using that focus assist. This focus assist is so helpful and it works even while I'm recording. So I can punch in, get exactly perfect focus. That's just really scratching the surface. There's so many things to talk about with this camera. It's really, really incredible. Like I said, if you come from the DX100 and you love the DVX, that's great, but the HVX200 is really the way to go. So much better. You're gonna get that DVC Pro HD footage using those P2 cards, and I think you're really gonna love it. Now that I think about it, how am I gonna get the footage off of here? I need Firewire.